protesters taking to the streets demanding $15 an hour. And Hillary Clinton's in, and she's weighing in, tweeting her support for the protesters. Only catch, these were union-backed protests. So are unions just trying to supersize their membership, not workers' pay? Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Butner. This is Bulls and Bears. Here they are, the Bulls and Bears this week. Gary B. Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, John Layfield, along with Ashley Pratt and Emily Tish Sussman. Welcome to everybody. Ashley, the union-backed protests, just a way for them to bump up their membership, not people's pay?
The unions do not care at all about increasing the minimum wage for workers. They tried to make this look like an organic effort when really, over the past 2 years, the SEIU has funneled over $50 million into nonprofit front groups to make it look like it was an organic thing done by the workers. But if you actually saw some of these protests, what you saw were young college students being paid money by the unions to go stand out there. They weren't actual fast food workers. And that's the real issue here that you want to debate. Why is it that this union-backed, big issue is going on when in fact workers aren't the ones really advocating for it?
Well, Gary B., why do you think this is? Tens of millions of dollars. This is a huge campaign, and most union workers don't make minimum wage.
Exactly, Brenda. It's very clever, actually, on the part of unions. They're looking altruistic, but what they're really doing is looking out for their union members. Here's how it works. As you point out, most union members aren't paid via minimum wage. They actually make higher than that. So what happens is when you raise the minimum wage for the non-union members, the less skilled members, you're actually raising the bar. You're knocking them out of the marketplace. So then the company has to say, well, I need to hire the more skilled union people. What happens then? The more they demand those union, the more the union people make. So they're looking out for their union members for sure, but this $15, that's a Trojan horse to get more pay for the unions.
Well, Emily, you support this campaign. Why?
Look, what the unions were doing in organizing, and I'd like to point out that the reason that these protests look diverse is because they were diverse.
They were
there are
paid
massive
to be
communities
there,
that were standing. They were not paid to be there. There are members of the environmental community that were there. There were students that were there. They were out there on their own. There were fast food workers that were out there striking because this impacts them. They need it. But the reason this really blew up in so many ways and brought so many people out together is because people are really saying that the minimum wage is not enough for them. They understand there's been a recovery. They are not feeling it. And that's why there was such a broad coalition around it.
Well, and Jonas, there actually has been some growing consensus. We've seen Seattle, we've seen Oakland, different cities raising the minimum wage, and also some major employers, Walmart, Target, McDonald's. So this pressure has had some effect.
Definitely, and I kind of side with Emily. I don't think it's like such a clever, organized scheme so much as the unions are jumping on a populist movement to kind of get the brand benefit. A little to Gary's point, they've taken a lot of hits in the last few years for, boosting middle-class workers' salaries with ridiculous health benefits and pensions. They got a bad reputation to the public, and they're trying to gain it back by actually latching onto the group which is not have massive health benefits and pension benefits, and they actually work hard, don't get 2-hour lunch breaks like the auto workers might get, which is low-end workers in these jobs. I will say it can be dangerous for unions because let's imagine a world with a $30 minimum wage, just hypothetically. You'd have a lot of unemployment, so there'd be less members for unions. Also, why be in a union if the minimum wage is $30? You're going to pay union dues? How much more are they going to get you to flip burgers than $30? So I think it's actually a defeatist thing ultimately for unions, but it was done to get the positive public perception of the plight of the underclass worker.
John, isn't this the union's last gasp, basically? They haven't been able to organize much. The hiring is in non-union jobs lately, so they're just looking for any way to increase their membership.
Yes, they are. They've been dying for the last several decades. And look, they're pressuring at McDonald's over some alleged tax evasion problems in Europe. They're trying to pressure them every way they can to unionize McDonald's, unionize Walmart. This is all about survival. Gary B is right. This has nothing to do with the minimum wage. This is about increasing their membership roll. Why $15? It's because it sounds good. That's the only reason. Unions do not want, and neither do politicians, a permanent fix to the minimum wage, because if you indexed it to inflation, a basket of wages, that would kill unions, because the only way that unions are gaining membership is because they're paying people. They're spending tens of millions of dollars. Hey, we're going to get you $15 an hour. Why 15? It was $10. Because it sounds so much better. Unions are dying here, and they're using this as a way to recruit.
Emily, give us some feedback on that.
Look, I just think this is incredibly cynical. Are unions advocating on behalf of their members? Yes, that is what they do. Are they trying to unionize more shops? Yes, that is what they do, because then they have collective bargaining in those places, and there's a better chance for the workers to actually get a living wage. $15 gets them to a living wage, which is not even what many people have been advocating. If you wanted to get them just to take people out of poverty on a regular amount of hours working, that would be 10-10. They're saying we want people out of poverty, working people. Let's lift them out with the salaries they have.
It should be up to the
I'm
franchise.
I'm sorry to disagree. I don't want to be disrespectful here, but why is a living wage $15? That is just a catchphrase. That's as deep as a wading pool. They're saying living wage and they're saying $15. They were saying 10. They have arbitrarily picked $15. When you say, why $15? Well, it's a living wage. Why is that a living wage? Because the unions say so, because they're dying and they want to get more members.
And Gary B., bottom line, again, a fixed minimum wage or raising the minimum wage through the government is the government telling business what to do. Is that their rule?
Exactly, Brenda. That's the other. Look, I don't know where in the Constitution it's government's responsibility to determine what people get paid. And in fact, every time the government gets involved in this, it actually works against it. When the minimum was raised the last time, the unemployment rate amongst black teenagers who are most affected by minimum wage skyrocketed. The other thing is, do we even want people making minimum wage, making everyone gets paid the same? Doesn't the fries guy at McDonald's, doesn't he have more skills than someone who's just maybe at the cashier or something like that? We want wages to fluctuate so people can improve and do better and have an incentive to, contribute more to the bottom line of companies. This minimum wage thing just always gets it backwards.
Ashley, do you agree with that? Basically, if we raise the minimum wage, that the economy and workers get hit.
They do, and we're going to see a loss of jobs. And I think essentially what's going to end up happening is there's going to be no more jobs left for these workers. So what the unions are doing right now really will come to backfire. I mean, for example, in Seattle, they're looking to do away with tipping, and some restaurants have. And that's exactly a union push thing, because they want workers to unionize. They want franchisees to unionize. But really what should be happening here are franchisees should be the ones making the decisions. And that's why that McDonald's situation, corporate did that. So it wasn't all of their restaurants. It was just a select few that were, the corporate ones. But the local franchisees still retained their rights to pay their workers whatever they wanted and what they could afford to pay them. And Workers Center Watch is out there, and they're advocating on behalf of franchisee control. And I think that's something important. When you're trying to battle these huge unions that are out there spending millions of dollars. I mean, reports came out that over $320 million of their budget, they spent close to $80 million of that, in all of these Fight for 15. Again, arbitrary. It's just like the war on women buzz phrase out there. Fight for 15, it sounds good, it's sexy, it's appealing, but really they're not fighting on behalf of workers. They're going to cost them their jobs.
Okay, that's got to be the last word. Thanks, guys.